Welcome to the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Jarvis S. Scott with What's Happening in Birmingham. Today, I have the honor and pleasure, a good friend of mine, I also want to say kind of like a office neighbor, because we share the same co-working space, but she's doing something in a different capacity today. Autumn Sanders, and she's working with the Birmingham Black Business Census. So,
Yes.
Autumn, how are you today?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you today.
Great. And your company, you're Choir Consulting, right? That's
Yep.
the name of your company.
Yep, Choir is Quire. And so we're a research and strategy firm, been around 7 years here in Birmingham.
Great. So I want to bring on that because I think if you all have not seen the advertisements for it, either online or seen it on, I would say, TV, radio, Autumn is working with a group of people to do a Birmingham Black Business Census. So tell me about that.
Yes. So this project is over a year in the works, and we really came together around it because there is no agreed upon number of Black-owned businesses there are in the city of Birmingham. And as a business owner in the city of Birmingham, I thought, well, that can't be. Like there has to be a number, but there's so many different data sources that are trying to get that information that, you know, if you look on one number, we're killing it. If you look at one number, we're non-existent, right? But there's no kind of central, what we're calling source of truth in terms of the number of Black businesses in the city of Birmingham. So if we don't know how many, we don't know what type, we don't know how long they've been in business. There's just there's a gap in the data. And as a researcher, that was a no-brainer. It's a project that we wanted to be involved in, so that way we can fill that gap.
And especially since, I like to call it, since the world shut down about, can't believe almost been 5 years ago, how many businesses was created, but on the downside, how many businesses actually closed. So it definitely throws a little wrench into the actual number.
Yeah. There's a lot of chatter around, Black women are starting businesses at a faster rate, or, things like that, or what's the economic impact on, all of those things. But if we don't have a clear number, we don't know. We don't know what the net impact for Birmingham is. And there's the federal US business census that we just have gotten out of the habit of taking part in things like that. And so that's why for us, it's important to have a Black business census, because we'll step back, but then we're the ones that need the data. I mean, so many people I've talked to in this project, like, well, what do you think the outcomes are going to be? Or I want to know that data. And I was like, okay, yeah, we do. We're really curious. We want to have a better understanding of the landscape that we're operating in. And that's just being a good business owner.
Yes. And I guess my thing, and also, like, as you all are treating it almost like the actual census. And when I mean treating like the actual census, you all are going door to door.
Yes.
To get this data.
Yeah. So when we started this, we knew that it was going to take multiple conversations. One, because we're all busy doing a million things, especially this day and age. But two, we want to make sure that people are finding their level of comfort with it. So what I tell people is fill it out to the extent that you feel comfortable, right? So if you don't want to answer a question, keep going, but we want you to at least engage with it, take a look at it. And so we knew that meant asking people to their face. So we've got volunteers, we've got community ambassadors. Natalie Nelson Parker is a part of our team. Her company, Census Consulting Group, has really managed that component of it, because we know people are going to say no. That's okay. You can say no the first time. You can say no the second time, but we'll be back, right? You can see the billboards, you can hear the ad, but as you engage and have these conversations, we hope that you'll find your comfort and complete the census, because it does matter. It is data that is useful in figuring out how to make sure the ecosystem is what we need it to be as business owners, not just what people think we might need. It's our opportunity to use our voice.
Yeah, and also too, it gets to the point of finding out actually solutions to the problems that Black-owned businesses face. You
Yeah.
know, we're in Birmingham. We can all think, but you do research every day. Think and data is two different things.
Two different things. It's two different things. So, and it is about having that chorus of voices, right? You and I can talk all day long about, oh, the water's not cold enough. We need colder water, right? But if it's just you and I talking about needing colder water or whatever it may be, that's as far as it goes. But if you come back and say, okay, we did this research and 20% of the people in Birmingham say they need colder water. Okay, now that's a story. Now that's something that people can emphasize or take action around. And one of the stories I've been talking about is if we do all this research, we think about a lot of energy in supporting entrepreneurship and supporting small business kind of falls along national trend lines.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at Birmingham and say, hey, the highest performing Black-owned businesses are real estate businesses. How do we catalyze more people into real estate? That may be the story the data tells us. Or it may say that, hey, of the businesses that have employees, 35% of those are in the health and wellness space. If we're trying to create jobs, how do we create more like in-person health and wellness businesses? But without that data, without that surveying, we won't be able to make those statements. We won't have those stories to tell. So that's why we ask, how big is your team? Part-timers, full-timers? Do you have a brick and mortar? We want to know those things, and it may feel a little personal, but it really is about having the ability to tell the story of Black-owned business in Birmingham.
And I think you've answered this question, but I mean, so do you feel like what do you feel would be the number one benefit from a business participating in the census?
To me, well, like I said, I'm a researcher. So for me, the data is the number one benefit, right? You cannot say you've done something if you don't know where you started, right? Do you have 0 kids? Do you have 5 kids? If you don't know how many kids you have, how can you say how good of a parent you are, right? Like it starts from that initial understanding. I think for business owners, this is me foreshadowing, right? I think of this as we work a lot with nonprofits. And a lot of funders want to know the data. You want to do this new program, product, service, experience. You want us to fund and put our energy behind something. Why is this a good idea? What's the data that backs where you're trying to go? And so when I think about the potential of not just investing in businesses, but investing in the whole landscape of business creation and business growth in the city, that data is the thing that's going to crack that open. That data has to be there. In some ways, it's become table stakes for funding, for investment. And we're business. We know that. We know that when you go to the bank, it can't just be like, I got a good idea. They want to have the data. Investors want to have the data. Partners want to have the data. Your clients, your allies, they all still are looking for data. Your mom may want data. Baby, are you making any money? Am I going to have to support you from my Social Security? Everybody wants that data. And so I think of it as the groundwork. So when I think about how we as business owners benefit from that, it's because now we're able to make calculated strategic investments in the landscape that pay dividends for us and for generations to come.
And another thing I think about too, if you're thinking about starting a business, it gives you an idea of what type of businesses are currently successful here. Like as we go into, there's a conference coming up tomorrow. Let's say a plug, the
I'll
Aging
be there.
Advocate Conference. And one of his famous quotes was "Find a need and fill it." So there's no use, like you said, starting a business. Let's just say, just happenstance, like you said, it's a whole bunch of realtors, a whole bunch of barbers, a whole bunch of hairstylists. Whereas we may need businesses for people who have HVAC businesses or electricians. So they give you an idea of, okay, well, let me go somewhere where there's, I wouldn't say less competition, but let me go somewhere where there's a need for this type of business in our area.
Yeah.
Me, like when you were saying that.
Yeah, I think that's really smart, right? Like what exists that we can kind of build off of
Yeah.
or grow, or what's
Mhm.
missing, and how can
Yeah.
we find our piece into it. The other thing I think about is the power of a collective voice, right? So if you're working from your basement or your garage and you're like, I'm the only one out here doing XYZ, and then the data comes back and you're like, oh my goodness, somebody else over in Woodlawn, somebody else over in Apple Valley, somebody else over in Collegeville is doing what I'm doing. Are they having the same problem? If we put our voices together, if we put our energies together, can we work to get that colder water, right? Can we work to put our voices together and get policy and practice change? Or can we go in on a workspace because we're close enough partners, but we're not, that we can share from the same benefit, but not compete against each other, right? So there's a lot more that's available in understanding who and what's happening. That's that. Because in the grand scheme, we all want Birmingham to win, right? We all want Birmingham to be a great place for all of our businesses to flourish, right? Like you can think about how many restaurants, think about a mall food court, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's room for all of them, right, to be there, because different kinds of people are going to come for different reasons. And so we want Birmingham to be a place where anybody can come and build a great business, and it be a launching pad to whatever their dream is for their business.
Now, I guess before I go to where they sign up, now with this survey, is people who specifically have a business located in Birmingham sign up for this survey, or can someone, if it's like, let's say locally, but sometimes people may have a business in Homewood, but may do business in Birmingham with their Birmingham business license.
Yeah. So I say 4 things. If you live in Birmingham, if your business is physically in Birmingham, if your customer is in Birmingham, or if your heart is in Birmingham, we want you to take the census. So however that fits. And we say it doesn't have to be a perfect business, right? It doesn't mean that your website is the one that you want it to be, or your revenues are the year that, you've had the year that you want it to have. We're not saying that this is only for old businesses, good businesses, businesses with this is for the broadest definition of business. But we want it to be connected into Birmingham in some way.
So where can they go to sign up?
Sure. It's BHAM blackcensus.com.
So where's yeah, go ahead.
You can sign up there. If you want to volunteer, you talked about people going door to door, there's still room to volunteer and help get the word out. So you can also volunteer, sign up to be a volunteer on that site, but you can also take the census there as well. I would say if you're going to share it, take it for yourself first and then share it on. So that way, like you did, you're sharing from a place of knowledge.
Yeah, I filled out the survey before we did the interview, and there were some really good questions on there to, really kind of like delve into, it's almost like when you go to the doctor and you go the difference between going to your primary doctor and going to the Jack in the Box doctor. And then, like, it's really like you was going, but there's also when you go see that specialist. And I felt like the questions on there was more like I'm going to that specialist. I went to the doctor, told something wrong, and the doctor sent the referral to the specialist because it deep dive, like, for example, one of the questions are like, what stage are you in with your business? And a lot, I've seen in the past, whether it was a city, government, a nonprofit entity, sometimes they may do specific programs or services to new and existing businesses. New businesses that's been just off the ground, where you have existing businesses of like 5 years or more at different stages of the life cycle. So I like how you asked, that question on there.
Yeah, thank you. So we had a team of advisors of business owners in the city of Birmingham that helped us craft our questions. So we worked to land the plane on that question set. And it's more than 5 questions. You have to spend a little bit of time around it, but we wanted to make sure that at the end of the day, every question seemed intentional and purposeful and asked in a way that had the utmost respect for the business owner. Because we know if you have 20 minutes to spare, you could be doing a million other things. And so we want to make sure you felt that that 20 minutes that you gave to us or 15 minutes that you gave to us was respected. So thank you for saying that. That really means a lot to me.
And also, too, I want to mention this too as well. As just fill out survey a week. Kind of talked about this before. Any information you provide on there, everybody, is not going to penalize you. I.e., if you're, and I have to almost get, because every time I do my podcast, I always like to think what sometimes the viewers thinking. Okay, if you haven't renewed your business license, haven't renewed your county, you're not going to get in trouble for answering truthfully to this question.
Yes. Look, the census launched before I had renewed my business license. So I still did it. But no. So I'll say this. I love our city leadership. The city is a value partner in communicating the census, but they do not own the data. So they're going to benefit from this data being in the world, but they're not getting that delivered to them, right? It's not a gotcha. It's not a gotcha. We are fellow business owners who want to make sure that our city leaders, that our business ecosystem primarily, the nonprofits and the organizations that day in and day out are working on our behalf to make sure that we have what we need. We are helping them have the information that they need to do their jobs better and more robustly. When you think about the nonprofits that are doing this work, they are doing the hard work of creating programs, services, writing grants, getting funding. And so no one organization has the capacity to lift this thing off the ground. And so I think of this as it really is a conversation. Yes, the city is listening. Yes, they care, but it really is the ecosystem that we're trying to serve through the census, the relationship between the business owners and the supporting organizations that stand in the gap for us.
Yeah, and another thing too, what I'm thinking, like, I really feel like from these results, you could really start to have a conversation. Now you can have a real conversation after you see the numbers.
Yeah.
Because for so long, either, I talk about with some of my fellow business owners, or you talk to fellow business owners, or people who just have a business. We can always say off top of our head, well, why businesses succeed or why businesses fail in our city. But now you got some sample data to look at it and also see, how many businesses are actually, open. But here's one thing a lot of people don't think about as well, and I think you will find this out in your research. How many people own businesses but don't own a physical office place?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So in my neighborhood, so we've done some preliminary data gathering of just publicly available data. And one of the things that I saw in my own neighborhood, there was a ton of businesses. And I'm like, my neighborhood is so residential, right? I don't live in the city center. There's not office buildings and businesses galore. It's a bunch of houses. And I was like, oh, these people are working out of their homes, or their business is accredited or licensed at their home, or they're using their home address. And that's not just my neighborhood, right? There's a lot of neighborhoods where that's true. And I think that's something that we're not necessarily talking about, and why that is. Why are people operating businesses from their homes? How do we support, are these infant businesses? Are these mature businesses? I was talking to my team how we forget, Cosby Show went through its phases, but Cliff Huxtable, his medical practice was out of his home. When I think of the Ballard House, right? It was a family home, but it was also the medical practice, right? So home-based businesses have always been part of our story. And so rather than saying, oh, it's got to be brick and mortar to be legit, that's not true, right? But so how do we make sure that what we're doing speaks to all different kinds of businesses in the choices that they've made or the era they're in their life cycle?
So when's the deadline? I know you all already started, but when is the deadline for businesses to fill out the census?
So I tease people like, if you need a deadline, Monday, right? Monday is the
Okay.
deadline. But really our deadline is the 30th of April. So the census will be open and we'll be collecting data through then.
Okay, and I guess a few more questions. Any other any partners you want to shout out that's helping you pull off
Yes.
this massive
Yeah.
feat, I like to call it?
Yeah, so our team is project managing the census, but we are not the only company that's working on this. And what I love is that it's a team of Black-owned businesses here in Birmingham that are lifting this thing into the world. So your friend and mine, Jackie Jones, her team at One Degree Marketing, are doing the marketing work, doing the social media, doing the newsletter, building the website. They did the branding and did it well, the billboards. They are really driving the public face of the project. I mentioned Nathalie Nelson Parker and her team at Civitas Consulting. They are doing the volunteer and the community ambassador engagement and making sure that you get the visual, but then you also get the human touch. And they're going day in, day out on the weekends. They're going to different events. They've got their shirts on, they've got their lanyards. And so you'll see them out in the world. And I'm really grateful to the team that she's assembled for doing that and being that partner for us. The third invisible partner is Tisha Cable's team at C Model. And so they built the platform that the census data is going into. So they are a tech company that's out of Innovation Depot, which is where we're also based. And they've done a great job of building out a custom software tool for this project. And you'll see more from them related to this again. But again, it's all Black-owned businesses in the city of Birmingham that are the lead partners on this project.
So I guess after the deadline, will you kind of produce like a preliminary report or kind of do like a follow-up? What do you envision? I know like collecting the data now, but
yeah,
what do you envision?
So I should mention, so this is a part of a grant funded by Innovate Alabama. So
Okay.
one of the things that we're delivering as a part of that is a toolkit, so that this is not the one and done. Like, we want to be able to do this, right? Because we want to see not just the data this year, but how does that data change over time? And so we'll be putting together a toolkit so that this process can run again. And then also we're delivering lessons learned. This is a full-fledged event. This is a thing. But in our language, it's also a pilot. It's the first time that we've run something like this. So there's going to be lessons learned that we want to make sure in the next iteration of this, that those lessons are learned from through a toolkit. So that's the first point of delivery. In terms of the data, so like I said, it's going to go into C Model, which is an AI-backed platform for analysis and for reporting. And so our deadline for that is June, and that we'll put together our reporting from the data, and then we'll look at what the data says and figure out how do we need to get this data back to the community. We are a research firm, and our goal is first to put the thing together and see what it says. And then from there, it's a conversation of how does this get delivered back? There's a million different ways this could show up, right? It could be industry-specific conversation. It could be neighborhood-specific conversations. But until we have the data, we don't have that insight yet to say, here's how the reporting back should look. So, but you'll see something after June, because June is our reporting deadline.
Well, I myself speaking, I'm definitely looking forward to the results of it. Like I said, I definitely think that it will start a conversation that's been long overdue, or a continuing conversation about, what does it take for Black-owned businesses to survive, and I like to say, and thrive in our city.
Yeah.
And there's no better time. A lot of people say, well, this should have been done this. Well, there's no better time than the present, everybody.
Right.
So
right.
I think that this is a great time to finally, like you say, nip this thing in the bud about what would it take, because like I tell people, just somebody being in business for 18 years now, I almost say, is that I always call being in business a journey, not a destination. So
yeah.
just a continued journey. So,
Yeah.
any final thoughts you want to say before we wrap up, Anna?
Just a preemptive thank you to the business owners. And I'll say this, I keep saying this. If your best friend thinks you have a business, if your mama thinks you have a business, and you should take the census. But I do want you to know that you have our team's gratitude for taking the time to lean into it. I know that answering the questions that we're asking isn't necessarily to everybody's comfort. I get that. And so that's why we've done this design of the program the way that we have. But we can only do so much. You have to decide that you want to participate. You have to decide that this matters. You have to decide that this is the right time and that you want to trust us with your information. And I don't take it lightly that someone's going to go into all of our interactions and then say yes. So a preemptive thank you from us and our team. We are grateful to you for believing in our work, believing in our efforts, and believing in our recommendation that this will mean good for you and this will mean good for the city of Birmingham if we take part in this. So I'm grateful, especially in this climate, especially in this era. There's a lot of decisions that we have to make about our businesses. And so for you to make room for this, it's a joy and a gift.
And I will say this too: if you ain't got time to fill it out, they'll come to you. So you get busy, and you, like you said, you're gonna see them out. And at the time of this taping, it's getting a little bit warmer because everybody knows in Alabama the weather is like a coin flip. So, yeah. But the coin flip today is warm this week. So you all will probably see them out and about, and I'll be communicating as well where they'll be at and different things and just updates about the census. So, thank you for coming on today. Thank you all for watching. Please check out what'shappenedbirmingham.com for more interviews. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check me out on TikTok and the audio version of this on Apple Podcasts. Thank you all again and have a great day. And fill out Birmingham Black Business Census today.
BHAM blackcensus.com.
Yes. Bye-bye, everybody.
Jarvis.
Thank you for watching the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Please check out our website, app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos today.